Hey guys, you're watching Daniel and Gian talk, and today we are going to do a full review of the Aamir Khan feature film Dangal. Daniel,
Let's get to the review.
Daniel,
yeah.
first thoughts.
I loved it. Right off the bat, of course, people are going to want to know because we watched Sultan last week. Sultan, that's right. I forgot. Sultan, I'm going to just make the comparison right off the bat. Dangal's way better, and let's leave it at that for now. I loved the movie. Other than there was for the first half, I thought it was genuinely perfect. I'm not saying that it's the greatest movie of all time, et cetera, but I had no problems with it whatsoever. And then towards the end, I kept, little things started coming out where I'm like, oh, why'd you have to do that? Oh, why did you do that? But for the most part, right off the bat, I'll give you my rating too as an 8 out of 10. As a sports movie, this is my if I need to. So for each. I feel like each sport has their particular movie.
Yeah.
You know, football. What would you say a defining football movie is? Any Given Sunday?
No, I hate Any Given Sunday. For me, football-wise, I like The Program.
I've never seen The Program.
You should.
Then there you go.
It's a great college football movie. It's definitely a 90s film, but for football movies, that's probably my favorite one.
Basketball, Hoosiers is good.
Hoosiers is good.
I mean, but there's a movie for every genre.
Yeah.
So for me, wrestling now, Dangal's the movie.
Okay.
So
have you ever seen Vision Quest?
I haven't.
Should
is
check
that a wrestling movie?
Wrestling movie from the 80s.
Well, I haven't seen it. But as
that's
of now,
like every American wrestler, even to this day.
They still like that.
They know Vision Quest. That's the one they watch. If you ask American wrestlers, they're going to tell you Vision Quest.
Well, but still,
I'm with you. This was a great movie. Not just a sports film. It was a great film.
Movie. Period.
I guess since I split it, I liked it the whole way. I didn't get tired because I didn't watch it all at one sitting. So that may have helped my opinion on the film, but. There's just a lot of great stuff. The acting was great.
The acting was good.
There
was the action was good.
The action was good, yeah.
I don't know anything about wrestling, but by the end of it, I felt like I could watch a wrestling match and at least understand.
That's actually something, we're jumping ahead, but that's something that, I'm very, I know very little about Olympic wrestling. I know a little bit, but this kind of explained everything without really having to explain it. Just watching the matches.
Just showing you.
They had that quick little... When Mahavir is up on the roof explaining
with the sign with her daughter, which was great.
Exactly,
which
was cute. It was cute and it was great.
Perfect scene.
Yeah,
genuinely a perfect scene.
And it was, that was a short scene, but it kind of explained all the rules,
everything
right then and there.
Perfect.
And you kind of got it. And then you watch the matches, and you see everything that's going on. It's
everything
they
talked about. Perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
The writing was on point.
Yeah,
that's why I'm saying it was genuinely just. And then they didn't. Make everything a spectacle. I felt like they didn't do that. Like in Sultan, everything was grander than it really was. They really tried to ham everything up.
No, this was grounded.
I felt like everything was real.
It was not over
I didn't
the top.
feel like, at any point was there too much Hollywood dramatics. Yeah. I know this is a Bollywood film, but I'm just saying that's what we would say here in the States. It's Hollywood making everything super over dramatic just to get emotions across. And this movie didn't need that, which I really enjoyed. With the exception of a few things towards the end, but we'll get to that at the end.
I could see why Disney wanted to invest into this movie. If they had nothing to do creatively with it, but it definitely fits in that. When it comes to Disney sports movies, it fits right in with 100%. The rest of them. The Miracle,
the social message.
Miracle was one of the Disney sports movie.
Hockey.
Yeah, when the U.S. defeated Russia for the first time, or the USSR at the time.
Yeah,
and the Winter Olympics at Lake Erie.
That no one thought America would win at.
Right. Well, that's another...
Well, that's the story.
We could go off on a tangent, too. No, there's a reason for that. Because at that time, just like in Cuba now, every single player on those teams was a professional. They were pro hockey players. The U.S. is picking up guys that were plumbers and stuff, like amateur hockey players.
Right, so it was like facing the NBA Dream Team.
Exactly. It's a reason why the reason why the Dream Team exists is because the USSR was beating the U.S. so badly because they were sending college players to play against Russian pros, which at the time also included Lithuania, Latvia, like all these other countries who have now have NBA talent, and the U.S. had enough, so they sent the pros. Actually, you know what's funny? It was only one Olympic that I can think of. Actually, it was 1984. 88. The U.S. didn't win, so 92 they sent the Dream
Charles
Team.
Barkley.
Because 84 Michael Jordan played on that Olympic team, and they won gold.
I didn't know Jordan was playing in '84.
Well, he was a college player.
I didn't know. I didn't know he was playing.
Yeah,
I mean, I knew he was playing basketball, but I didn't know he was playing on the Olympics.
Yep.
For the Olympic team, I should say. I mean, but anyway, let's not get this too American. But just I don't know how you want to break this down. I mean, I genuinely have pretty much nothing bad to say. Maybe we just get that out of the way.
I mean, here's little things that like. So the movie starts, and he's at work, and he's watching TV, and this other guy, the bigger guy, comes up to him. And not
to say Amir's not pretty jacked
no, but
in
this guy's tall, like he was a big guy. He was definitely bigger than Amir.
For sure.
Amir. And they starts talking trash, and he's like, "Oh, you want to go? Let's do it." They clear out and I thought the scene was great. Like, I love the way that was a perfect way to open the movie because it's like, okay, you want to do this, and then they put all the desks to the side
right then and there. They didn't cut to go outside. No. They were right there in the office.
And then syncing the commentary from the actual Olympic match with their fight was great. You know, so it was like that got me excited. I was like, okay, wow, this is good.
And even the zingers where he's like, I was a state champion or something. And he's like, you just got beat by a national champion.
Yeah, he said, don't feel bad. You just lost to a national champion.
Something like that.
It was like he's like, you should feel good. You just beat a state level champion. He's like, well, you shouldn't feel bad because you just lost to a national champion.
Zinger.
Yeah.
But I appreciated that scene too.
And the action looked real. That's the thing. Like it didn't look, like you said, it didn't look over the top. It didn't look cheesy. Like these were like well choreographed moves.
Super well choreographed.
Like Aamir Khan looked like he knew what he was doing.
100%.
He looked like a wrestler. Very fluid. Very
like he's done it before.
Yeah. And this is us as outsiders. We're not wrestlers. I
could be 100% wrong.
Yeah, I dabbled in wrestling in high school, but I never like fully committed to it. So I don't know anything about it.
And I've never wrestled anything.
I have friends that wrestled in college. By the way, in the States, college wrestling is the highest level of wrestling before the Olympics that you can do. So I know Division I is the highest of all college. I know several Division I wrestlers that I went to high school with or who I met here in LA. But for me, for Daniel, it looked real. It didn't look film wrestling.
And that's because, and I'd have to credit that to the way they shot it too. There's a lot of longer takes, so not as much cutting. And so if you're going to do long takes, what you see has to be real. Otherwise, you're going to think it's fake right off the bat. And because they're really not hiding a lot. I'm sure they were hiding, the actual slams and stuff like that because you want to probably use a stunt double for Aamir Khan. You don't want to hurt him because he's a liability. A lot of people don't realize that.
They're not doing the reason why stars don't do their stunts is not because they don't want to.
Some of it is, but not all of them.
Well, some of it, but the big part is if they get hurt on set,
they can't film the rest of the movie.
Exactly. So that's why you swap
and then what happens is the production company, the people who are funding the money, they can pull that money out because they saw that the set wasn't safe or whatever because it's all a investment. So if there's anything that could cause funding to be withheld, the production company behind producing the film is probably not going to.
And I'm sure they're getting insurance clauses too to protect their assets. So if Aamir Khan breaks his arm they're going to collect on that insurance.
I'm sure
on that policy.
But the thing is though, but if you're going to do long takes, and this is my point, you have to make it look real. You have to take the time to choreograph it right, because you can't just fake it until you make it. Is what I'm saying. If you're going to put them out there, you're going to have them actually do it. They need to be able to do it. Otherwise, the audience is going to know right away. They're going to know it's fake. And if that happens, the everything you enjoy about the movie is just not going to be there. You've seen The Raid. Have you seen The Raid?
You know what? I have not seen The Raid.
The Raid 2?
I haven't seen any of the Raids.
Okay, well, what makes them so great is there's a lot of longer takes in it. And they're doing the craziest action I've probably ever seen in my life. Genuinely. Mm-hmm. But you believe it because A, it's well choreographed. B, the stuntman actually will punch each other and stuff. When I was at SC, they actually came and explained to us if they weren't actually hitting each other, they weren't happy. They just didn't enjoy it.
So it was like Ong Bak.
Yes, it's the same people, same exact. Okay. Not the same exact people, but it's the same. The stunt coordinator that came for USC, he also worked with Tony Jaa, who's Ong Bak, and he was explaining how Tony specifically is the type of person who will put 100% into his punch until the last second and then make it
pull the punch right before it
right
lands.
Before, but you don't tell. You can't tell because it's actually still making contact.
It's like Rocky 2, Sylvester Stallone wanted people to get hit for real.
Exactly.
Until Hulk Hogan
messed him up,
tossed him out of the ring. And then he was like, okay, maybe
maybe not that.
Maybe we need to back this.
But the point is, though, if you're going to go there, you got to go there. You got to know what you're doing. Otherwise, it's just going to fall flat and it's not going to work. And I don't want to keep hating on Sultan, but that was kind of what that movie was about. It was more of like, let's try to do the move and we'll cover it in different angles to build it up to make it look like it's real, as opposed to this, for all intents and purposes, could have been real. You know, that first fight between father and daughter, that first full match, I was impressed.
Yeah.
I mean, not only on a technical level, like in terms of choreography and things like that, but just on a filmmaking level, because not only did the film earn that scene, it also, you know, cut out the score. It cut out all the dramatics. Right. It was just them in the sand fighting each other, and it wasn't just a 30-second fight either. No. It was a full match.
Well, there was a tension rising between them.
Exactly, and they had to release it, and it was perfect. I genuinely liked it.
And then it led there's consequences to it.
Exactly.
As well.
Because it put her on a path of like, I'm going to do my own thing, and then obviously there's negative aspects to that, and then, you know, the father goes and takes the other daughter under her wing. She follows him to a T.
Right.
Basically gets to the point of the other daughter and might even like surpass her if the movie wanted to do that. Yeah. But it kind of got to its point, which was,
well, at the end of the film, it says in real life they both ended up winning gold medals.
Exactly.
Internationally.
So what do you feel about the themes? Because I feel like
you and your themes
on a thematic level, I feel like it resonated with me. Right.
Because it was a family film. This was about if I wanted to go the Judeo-Christian route. This is totally one of the 10 commandments, you know, honor thy father and mother. And this is a big part of the film. Like, you know, even though you don't agree with everything your parents do, everything they're doing is for your benefit. And, you know, at the beginning of this all, it was initially a selfish thing by Mahavir. You know, he didn't have a son.
Until other people started saying.
You know, until, yeah. And it turned into something else because he bypassed the traditional daughter route. You know, he's like, you know, I'm going to treat you like I would have treated my son, and I want what's best for you, and I want you to be a champion, and I want you to represent this country. Like that, it was like,
it was selfish,
it was a gift to him,
and
it was a gift for the country of India as well, you know? And I think that one little scene of the wedding, that's the only time we really touch on it. You know, they lightly kind of talk.
But that one's explicit.
But that one's like straight up.
Because the daughter is crying. The one who just got married.
Because she's 14 years old.
I know.
And I saw that and I was like, wait, she looks really young. Like she's the one getting married. And then we never saw the husband either, you know. And then
she talks about it, like, which is, you know, I'm going to be honest with you. I actually thought that was something that was like old practice. I didn't know that was still going on. I mean, obviously this movie's not contemporary 2017. But it wasn't that long ago when this movie took place.
But it also takes place in a village, in a small village.
That's true.
You know, there's still a lot of traditions like that still happen.
I'm going to ask this, and it might be a taboo question, but, you know, what's the point of being honest if you're not going to actually ask real questions? Is 14 looked at as like a child's age in India? Or maybe like in certain villages it's not? Because in America it's 18, right, in terms of adult. But there's certain places, isn't there certain states where it's 16? I feel like
there's I think in Idaho the age of consent is 14.
Okay, so it's like
there's some states where, you know,
and obviously from a human standpoint, you know, thousands of years ago we only lived to like 30, so like 14 was healthy prime age, right? And obviously now that we're living longer, things are changing. Right. We obviously are finding more about the human body. We know that 14 you're not really developed yet.
You're not even close to being developed.
Exactly. So like things are changing. But I'm just curious. I'm not saying everyone in India thinks a 14-year-old is you know, ripe and ready.
Well, I mean, I think it's not just India. These are traditions held around many different cultures.
Sure,
societies.
but I want to ask, you know, just in general.
Right.
Let us know in the comments.
Like in Judaism, you know, the bar mitzvah is a celebration of the 13th year,
right.
And that's becoming a man.
And even quinces are 15, which is still young in my opinion.
It absolutely is.
So I mean, and you know, it is taboo, but at the same time, you have to. Yeah, you have to acknowledge that just because that's not what it's like here or in Mexico or whatever, that doesn't mean
that's actually that's something I want to talk about. The film is like, you know, the thing that unified us all was the wrestling and her rise,
right,
and her fall and her rise again. But there's also like the cultural things that we pick up. You know, like we know his family doesn't eat meat. He doesn't even know how to cook chicken, and his wife like refuses.
If you cook chicken in my house,
no meat in my house. You're not gonna use. If you use a pot, I'm not using that pot ever again.
Right.
to cook chicken. Like that was like, oh, like, and it was like little, it wasn't like integral, but it was like little, like,
because if you're part of that culture, you understand immediately. You don't need an explanation.
Exactly.
But for me, I'm like, chicken. I figured chicken would be cool. But again, I don't. How am I supposed to know?
Well, I mean, if it's a religious thing, or they're veggies for sure. They're vegetarians, except for the daughters now.
Right now, yeah. Because they need protein.
That was that was interesting to me. I like little things like that, like little cultural things, like that we wouldn't have known about had we not watched it. And it was like nonchalant, and I like the whole mud pits thing. Like, I'm really starting to like this whole traditional mud pit wrestling thing. I think it's like really cool. If that's something that like still going on like a lot, I'd love to, if and when we make it to India, I would love to go and see one of these live, because
we got to make sure we avoid the South though, because someone threatened us.
Oh yeah.
Because we were talking about Vijay. That's his name, right?
Vijay.
Yeah.
Somebody didn't like our reaction to one of the, I think was it Mersal?
Yeah.
Someone didn't like our reaction to the Mersal trailer, and he said,
if you ever find yourself in the South,
he's like, don't mess with Tamils. Tamils mess you up, we'll cut you.
Like, okay, relax.
He was like, hey, bro, you come to my hood talking shit like that, bro.
That's probably what he sounded like.
Yeah.
But
he had a do-rag and a chain.
That's what he was.
Hey, guys, at this point of the review, we're going to take a break and have our buddy Michael Madden review some of the action sequences of Dangal.
How's it going? I'm Mike Madden, doing some commentary today on Dangal. I got about 13 years of wrestling experience, wrestled high school, college, and let's see what we got here. They come out to shake their hands.
So this is the opening scene of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that move is pretty. That's show for show. Like I've never seen that in my life. Like, it's cool though. It's bitchin' looking, but yeah, it's a Hollywood move for show. I mean, in terms of storytelling, it makes sense. He's got to show like dominance, Yeah.
Now the wrestlers are gearing up for the next round. बिल्कुल टॉम, शुरू में मुकाबला जितना आसान लग रहा था उतना आसान ये है नहीं. देखते हैं आगे क्या होता है.
Yeah, that's.
एक दूसरे को परखते हुए शानदार अटैक, उतना ही बढ़िया डिफेंस.
It's a sick ass fucking wizard, but he didn't finish it. He just threw him. And that's a head and arm. Now those last two moves were definitely like those were like good wrestling moves. I mean, the fact that he didn't finish it and he just tossed him was kind of like lame. But it's like dropping him and letting him go. But that head and arm was sick. But really, not very many competent wrestlers are gonna bum rush someone like that.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, how realistic do you think this opening match was?
I mean, like a 4 or 5.
Okay, so you think it's more of a for cinematic purposes rather than...
Yeah, I mean, the moves were cool. The last two moves were to me like kind of realistic moves that you'd see in a match, but everything else that was going on wasn't. I mean, they didn't look. I mean, he's a state level champion, he's a national level champion. Like, he didn't look the way his body movements is. But it's a movie. Like, these guys are actors, so it's like they're not gonna necessarily know how to move like that. Okay. But it looked cool. It's bitching. I mean, in terms of storytelling, like, it's cool. It's fun to watch.
Okay, so in this next scene, it's a flashback to when he was younger and in competitive wrestling.
Okay.
सिर्फ बुद्धि बढ़ाने से कोई पहलवान नहीं बना जाता मेरा बेटा पहलवानी जो है ना वो खून में
It's like a montage sequence too. It's not an entire match.
Yeah, like he gives that money to that kid for milk. Shit's funny. Oh, now he looks in the distance. He feels his life before him. I mean, this dude is jacked, man. Like... Yeah, that was filthy. That was pretty sick. You're not going to see that all the time. Head and arm. Yeah, that looks good. That was all super realistic. The one move where he flips the dude over, like I don't know if you'd like necessarily see that a lot, but that looked good.
In this match, where would you rate the realism from 1 to 10?
That's like an 8.
It's like an 8?
Yeah, it's like an 8. Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty good then.
Except for his like, dude, those guys are so jacked. It's hilarious.
So now you're saying their body types maybe aren't the most accurate for
yeah, I think they're too muscular.
Okay.
For sure, yeah. I mean, not necessarily. There's dudes that are that jacked, I guess.
But they're like 5'3".
Yeah, they're too, yeah. That's no, yeah. You aren't gonna see someone 5'3" like that jacked very often wrestling.
Okay. And we're back.
So, but Geeta, how do I say this? How old was she when the movie first started? Because I feel like that was a little... I want to say
they're junior high age. So
okay,
they were like,
so...
Because there was that one creepy scene.
That's what I was bringing up
so
right now.
I'm thinking she was 13 or 14.
Because they were all like, oh, she looked... I wish she takes her clothes off or something like that. And
yeah.
like, me, and this is why this is going to tie back into the taboo question I had earlier, me, that made me feel uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, she's a little young. But I don't know if that's commentary, like the movie was showing that like this is actually kind of gross, or that's just how it is, and it's not a big thing, and I'm projecting my own like American sensibilities.
We also don't know how old the guy was because he could have had Daniel syndrome,
where he looks old.
Where he's got some
young.
face whiskers and he looks like old as.
This is true. He could have been 14 too. But you know what I'm talking about though, and so
absolutely.
I definitely want to know in the comments, like, let us know, because I don't want to assume for that, because I think it's wrong if we just assume it's gross. Even though I still look at it as kind of weird because she's young, regardless of how old the person is, unless they're 14, unless if they're the same age, then whatever.
Yeah.
It's still weird because
Absolutely.
she's still a kid, but who knows?
Well, she's old in a Western sense. She might, like you said, she might not be old in that village. She might be prime,
exactly,
breeding age.
So that's what I'm just curious.
There's other things too, like so the nephew living with them. I know he goes to live with them to train the girls, but that was a little that was different for me because I was like, that won't really happen here. Like, hey, just take my kid. Yeah, you can take him. You can have him.
Just because.
Yeah.
No, not without some.
And then we never see his dad again after that scene either. Like,
no.
I
feel like he was only in there to be the narrator.
And was he really his nephew? Because I know like calling people auntie and uncle is like that's a
sign of respect.
Not that so much. It's a colloquialism.
Mm.
Like people call everybody anyone that's older.
They even called him. He called him his son at one point too.
Well, he said these are your sisters too.
Yeah,
and this was before he like moved in with them. So
right.
I assumed it was a cousin. I might be wrong though, but I assume it was a cousin. I don't know if that was his brother or if it was his brother-in-law.
Right.
But
at the end of the day, I feel like he's only in there to be the narrator, because they didn't want to put.
He was kind of comedy relief as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely, for sure.
But there was some, when they go to the wedding and he slaps his shit out of them. Like
I forgot about that.
Like the music, the record stopped.
That was like the only musical moment too of the movie, which I actually appreciated a lot.
That was the only where
they're actually dancing
and singing.
Right.
Every other music
was used for narration,
and it was
purposes,
a montage too,
which I really loved. Yeah. I really enjoyed that.
That was a great use of music
because it didn't take you out of the movie.
No.
You kept going forward. It wasn't like, okay, here's the musical number, which is what I had a problem with in Sultan. And I know that's like a reoccurring thing in Bollywood movies, so I'm going to have to either get used to it or it's going to bother me every time. But anyway, I want to talk about some of the things I didn't really care for. I didn't care for the coach at the end, like her Olympic coach.
They needed a villain.
I know, but at the same time, I felt like, did they really need it? But because it's like this weird thing where I wish he was good at his job. Because when they first presented him, he kind of seemed like he was good. Oh, you're going to forget everything. You're going to learn only what I have to say. Whatever.
See,
right?
I didn't take that.
I did.
The second he started talking, I was like, oh, this guy's going to screw her up. That's the first thing that immediately I was like,
well, I thought that too.
This
because
guy's going to
obviously
screw up. This guy doesn't really he's the way he interacted with Mahavir right off the bat told me this guy
Well, yeah, that was after his introduction though with the girls. I feel like he was introduced with the girls first.
But that's part of the introduction.
I know.
And then you get like right then and there, I got the feeling like this guy doesn't really care. Like this guy's just here. He's kind of collecting a paycheck.
Which is why I didn't care for that.
His goals are really low. Well, I think it's a commentary on like how serious people take the program in India, specifically the women's program. You know, they just hired a guy.
They're always going to be women, so it doesn't really matter.
Exactly. You know, and it took Geeta and Mahavir to like elevate.
True.
The program.
I guess it was just what really bothered me wasn't that. It was just the end where he was like, "Oh, you're gonna listen to your dad? Then I'll show him, and then I'm gonna lock you in a room." Like that to me was just.
That was definitely a narrative.
That was a way to get Aamir away from the daughter, and like so the daughter could win on her own.
That was a Hollywood scene.
Yeah,
that was for sure. That was a Hollywood story structure.
And I felt like it was out of place. That's my point. Like I understand why it exists. I understand like how it weaves into the story and its importance and the significance, et cetera, et cetera. But in my opinion, and this is weird, and people might not like this, but he should have died.
The dad?
Yeah.
Well, it's based on a true story. So
I know.
It's a real guy. So
I know.
He's still alive, all right?
I know.
Don't kill him
he is.
yet, all right?
I know he is, but I'm saying a story structure.
Why'd you just get all Guido on me right there? I know. Back off. Okay, I get it.
I have no idea.
Oh.
It's the coffee. Or what's his name? I was channeling my inner, what's his name? Dice Clay? Isn't that what Dice Clay does? But no, I think... Because it was set up to like you don't need the dad anymore, right? Like that's the whole point is for Geeta's character arc, she needs to realize that everything my dad taught me was crucial, but there's a key element which is I'm not going to always be there, but you still need to be you. You still need to be the best, and that was the whole purpose of that scene. And I felt like I'm not saying he should have died. I'm not saying I wish he would have died, etc. But that would have been a moment where or he had a heart attack or something.
Yeah,
and he's in the hospital and he can't actually go. Like. That would have been able to achieve
the
same thing.
You could have taken creative license differently.
Exactly. And maybe that's not a
and it would have been answer, it could have been like a more heartfelt like
right, as opposed to him being locked underground. And I'm like, it kind of was a distraction as opposed to like him watching on TV.
I see where you're coming with that. It didn't bother me that much. It
didn't bother me, but it was just something that it's when a movie enters a pantheon of like greatness, then you really start to nitpick the littlest things because there's nothing else to harp on except for these little tiny things, and that was one of them for me. Let's see what else. Because it really kind of comes down to that, and then just I didn't understand the part where he had to like plead for his daughter's like forgiveness.
So they were going to kick him out of the
No,
program.
I know, but I don't understand why the dad would have had any power in that situation.
It wasn't. He was just throwing himself at them. Like he was just saying, "Hey, you know what? It's my fault. This is happening. They're both very talented, and I'm sorry that I interfered." It was him. He was laying down on his shield. I think that
it didn't bother me. I was just that's genuinely like, okay, would they have actually allowed him in the room to do all this? That's what I'm saying. Like, or was that just a creative?
I see. That's something I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know, but it fit. It was there.
It didn't bother me. It didn't bother me
because that's when this whole time you see him. He's very stern. He's very like, and this time he has tears in his eyes and he's breaking down in front of other men.
He's begging.
Yeah,
literally begging.
Like the guy's. He's a proud man. He's a very proud man, and this is one time where you see he swallows his pride because he knows this is like he messed it up.
It's bigger than him. It's bigger than his own.
Exactly. And you see and then that was part of the conflict between Geeta and him at the middle of the film, when she goes to the NSA.
And she watches SRK and learns how to she becomes normal. And what I enjoyed so much was the reveal of that, because I was so ingrained in the movie of like wrestling. And you see this so many times in all these types of movies, especially in Disney films, where they'll only show one side of life and they never show the other part. And that's what this movie did until she goes away and she's away from home. And then the movie took its time to like show her going to the movies, show her like eating, show her growing her hair out and whatever. And it was interesting because I had completely forgot this girl had no life other than wrestling, because you're so like happy for her to succeed in everything that you don't really care that she didn't have friends. She didn't have whatever. She didn't blah, blah, blah until she goes out and you're like, oh, she's so out of place. Yeah. The dad stripped her of a life, really. But at the same time, not really. And so, like, it's this weird... It made me feel weird. Like, who's really right? Is that overpowering, controlling father figure the right guy, or is he the wrong guy? I mean, in terms of, did he do the right thing or did he do the wrong thing?
And I think it's up for debate because on the one hand, yeah, he kind of took away their childhood and stuff. But on the other hand, you know,
he instilled in both the daughters something that
they have discipline. They're better. They have a better life. They're not somebody's wife, like sweeping and cooking and taking care of babies, which they would have been by that time already.
Right, definitely.
You know, and I think she was given these freedoms and she took advantage of them, but then she started losing. And then she realized
she had to resort
I
back
spent my entire life working for this, and I'm throwing it away just so I can watch some movies and eat bad food, you know.
Which is good commentary because it's relatable to everybody.
And that scene for me when she calls and she's crying, she couldn't even get a word out like that. Like I got misty-eyed there. I teared up a little bit. That was like a really emotional scene. Like I felt as a father now, you know, I'm a brand new father, but. You know, I felt it like, you know, like you want what's best for your kids, and he knows, like, she was basically
those
saying,
things have more impact to you now?
Yeah. Well, she said, I'm sorry. She was basically apologizing and letting him know that he needs help, and he sacrificed once again. That's the other thing. Like, we see the selfish aspect, but there's other things he sacrificed. He quit his job to train them. He moves to this other town where he doesn't know anybody.
He took all the mats in his house to have
exactly.
so they can have mats.
Exactly. Like he sacrificed for them to be successful, and
he put himself on the line, not just in regards to finances, but just in socially.
Yeah.
Because he vouched for his daughters. Everyone was against it, but he just kept vouching for these people, no matter what people were saying against him, and it didn't matter. I mean, even because that's why I enjoyed the beginning where they showed everyone telling him like, oh, everyone has a piece of advice to have a male child. Right. And it's just that whole montage, and 4 kids later and he still doesn't have one. And then you see that journey, even though it happens in 10 minutes. And then you see
which is good. Like we only needed 10 minutes.
But we got it. And it worked. And that's why. And so when he finally says, screw it, I'm going to train my daughters after they beat up the kids, you know, it earned. That's my thing.
And I love that.
I
love that.
Everything
Like
was earned.
That the light bulb was his 2 daughters beat the crap out of 2 boys.
And because I think that's a real thing too. Yeah. Because I know when my little cousin was getting bullied, and
he was getting bullied by a girl.
No, by guys. By I think it was one kid in particular, and my uncle told him, unbeknownst to my aunt, like if he does that again, you just kick him in his shins or something like that. He was young. I forgot, or said something like that, right? And apparently he did it, and my cousin kicked him or did something. Yeah. Never again did he mess with him.
Oh, that's how it happens.
And my uncle was like, gave him a high five to the side, and even though my aunt wasn't happy about it, and I told, you know, because you just, bullies, they don't expect anything back, and the moment they get it back, especially at that age.
Most bullies are predators, and they prey on the weak.
Right. And if the weak fight back, they're like, oh. Yeah. And I feel like that's most animals in general.
Unless you're a bully like me. You fight back. Oh, it's on. Now we're gonna have a good time.
Well, I was never bullied or a bully, so I can't comment. I was an instigator, though, definitely.
Yeah, you're a side bully.
You know what? No, actually, I wouldn't do that. I would never. You know what so and so said about you? But I was definitely the guy who'd be like, "Oh, you're gonna let him say that about you? Whatever." Dang.
Oh, we talk about moms right now?
But never like behind someone's back. I heard so-and-so said this. Because I feel like that's shady. Right. But if we're all there present. But anyway, we're getting off topic here.
So I want to talk a little bit about the older Geeta. I was really, really impressed with her action sequences because she moved so fluid. You know,
I mean, they all did.
Yeah. But her, once she got to when they were kids, you know, whatever, there were some rough spots, but it was still good.
Because they were kids.
Yeah, but when they were adults, like she was doing.
She's probably a real wrestler.
Yeah, something, because she was acrobatic. Like she was doing flips, you know. That match when they're wrestling, when she wrestles her dad, when they wrestle in the mud pit in the backyard, she was flipping around and just really moved well.
Because it wasn't even if she did the moves wrong, and you know, and if when Mike comes and talks about it or whatever. He might say, you know, you wouldn't actually do this because you'd be vulnerable to this move or whatever. Yeah. It's just her movement. Yeah. The way she moved. You know, Jackie Chan, might never have trained a day in his life in any martial arts. That's not true. But I'm just saying. But the way he moves, you believe it.
Yeah.
You know, Jet Li, the same thing. It's the way they move that you're like, okay, I can buy it. And then you find out, like, oh, they have backgrounds in X, Y, and Z. Or even Chuck Norris, you know.
Yeah.
Chuck Norris was a martial... What's he, black belt in something, right?
He's, I think he's a karate black belt, but he was a world kickboxing champion.
Maybe that's what it was.
60s,
Yeah. And so Chuck Norris is one of the few action stars who actually could probably beat.
And now he's a black belt in BJJ as well.
Oh,
like
it's black. Okay, so
he started training in that like in his 50s.
So what I'm saying is though, when you saw him do a roundhouse kick, it's so random.
Yeah.
But he did it with style, and you believed it,
right?
Because he had the movement. He understood, like, okay, you got to do this, and it was definitely true for this movie.
And if you're into fighting, those spinning kicks don't work. But they look good in movies.
I mean, they've knocked like a few people out in the UFC, but I mean, they're hardly ever.
It's a rarity that a spinning kick works. Like that kind of spinning kick too. Like the spinning kicks that land are really awkward.
I've seen an axe kick.
Are really, but they're awkward looking.
100%.
You know, like I saw Chuck Liddell had the worst looking kicks in the world, and he head kicked and knocked out a few guys with this ugly kick, you know, and it's like those pretty Jean-Claude Van Damme kicks, those aren't real. People.
Anderson Silva, didn't he knock someone out with the front kick to the face?
Yeah, he did the front kick, and then Steven Seagal took credit for it. Yeah. He knocked out Vitor Belfort with the front kick.
Someone did a scissor kick too, which is like just standing, like he kicked straight up and then he came down. I think that's a scissor kick.
Yeah, it's an axe kick.
Axe kick.
Yeah.
There you go. And like that was like, but anyway.
It's so easy for us to go off topic, folks. You guys are used to it by now, I'm sure.
I mean, we like the movie though. I'm just gonna scroll.
I mean, I don't know how much more we can actually talk about. I mean, like
nothing really.
You know, I just looked up the director's credits. This is his third film. You know,
this is the highest grossing movie.
Or his or her third film. The guy knows what he's doing. We haven't watched his older stuff, but with this film, I mean, he's a great director. This is a good film, and regardless of what country or what, this is like just a good.
That's why I said at the beginning,
film.
This is the movie for wrestling.
This is a film that I might end up buying. So,
to add to the collection.
Yeah, and that's one of the films I'm going to show my son once he's old enough, like, you know.
Because it's an inspirational movie, but it doesn't like over, like we said a million times, it doesn't sensationalize, thank you, any of it, any aspect of it. Yeah, there's little moments of cheesiness, just like every movie, but for the most part, it nails the landing, it nails what it wanted to do.
And I like the little moments of cheesiness.
Of course,
I like the
levity.
whole. You need okay, girls. I need you up at 5 a.m. Why? We're gonna go eat whatever the things were.
Oh, and then they all eat it for the very last time.
He's like, okay, you like that? It's not spicy enough. Make it spicier. Say, all right, girls, I want you to eat as many of these as you can, because after today, you're not gonna eat these ever again.
But see, you know why that worked. Great. You know why that? I mean, it worked in the moment, but it worked even more in the long run because. When they decide, oh, I'm not doing this anymore, and then he cuts their hair off, that's a big moment.
And that was brutal.
And you feel it, too.
That was brutal, yeah.
Because he was like, does your hair, what does he say to the barber? He's like,
can you grow hair?
Yeah. And he's like,
you sure you want me to cut it? Can you grow it?
But it's just an interesting thing where, I don't know how to say it, because like I felt for the daughters, but also the dad's kind of right.
Yeah.
But also like, it did instill, like it worked. It just worked at the end of the day. We keep saying it, but it worked. Everything worked. Everything was written and it made sense. There was a lot of plants and payoffs, like the 5-point move never gets used once until the very end.
Right.
But they set it up so it's in your mind the whole time. That's what we like to call a plant and payoff. You plant something early and then it pays off at the end of the movie.
It was like the crane kick in Karate Kid.
Right.
You don't see that move. You see him practicing until the very last.
And that's
the very
what
last
wins
scene.
It. And it earns it, and that's the thing. It's just great. I loved it.
And if you haven't watched Karate Kid,
you need to.
You need to. That's like one of my favorite movies. Super 80s movie.
And that's why everyone calls me Danielson for a long time until Damn Daniel came out. That meme, it was Danielson.
Danielson.
Yeah, because of that. But I have 2 questions to wrap this up. So my first question is, and this might sound super ignorant, but whatever. The head move.
I was first introduced to the head move. Like, I never really thought about it, but I was first introduced to the head bob by a comedian named Gabriel Iglesias. He went on a tour in India, I want to say like 5-6 years ago, maybe longer. I can't remember when the special came out. and he would talk about how everyone there would talk like this when they talk to you, and we saw that, and up till now, on all the trailers we've seen, we've already reviewed 3 different movies. I have not noticed that,
right.
But in this film,
multiple times,
it was very heavy, especially when the girls were younger, like the little girls, and even the nephew would, they wouldn't say anything. They would just go, and just,
So my question is, what does that mean? Like, what's the significance of it?
Right.
Is it just? Does it mean anything at all?
Is it a regional thing? Like, is it regional to this part of India, or is it widespread?
We genuinely don't know. So, please don't be offended by us asking.
That's the first time we bring it up because we haven't seen it.
Yeah.
We've heard about it.
We know about it.
Yeah, we
right.
know about it from other forms of media, but this is the first time with.
Because we have we do the what's up, whatever, and everyone has their own like variation of like non-verbal communication. So we're just curious. Let us know in the comments, please.
Then I could show you like different like things like that. Like in Puerto Rico, people do this.
What does that mean?
They're pointing instead of using their finger and pointing. They're like, like look over there, but they're with their lips instead.
So is that like that must be some indigenous like carryover?
Maybe it could be
when they. I mean, it would have to be, right? Because like
they had a language. Okay,
we clearly I know, but we clearly understand things. It's so weird about humans where we can talk. We could get a point. It might get frustrating to the point where it's like, fuck, just talk. But you can relay information without sign language or whatever, but just nonverbal, like or whatever.
Well, there's other like Italians. Like Daniel's watched like so many mob movies that now he talks with his hands all the time. But that's like really an Italian thing. Everyone's doing this,
I've always talked with my hands.
Yeah. I'm gonna blame the mob. I think you watched The Sopranos at a young age.
My first movie that I remember watching like as a little kid, besides like Dumbo and stuff like that, was Goodfellas.
Okay.
And it took me so long to figure out what that was. But what was ingrained in my head was when Joe Pesci kills that woman, that old lady. She was a witness or something. Yeah. And he goes into her house and like puts his hand over her mouth and shoots her in the head like 5 times, and then like the blood, whatever. For whatever reason, that stuck out in my head, and for years I couldn't figure out what movie that was. Right. I thought it was Casino, and then I saw Casino for the first time like when I was like 8 or 9. I'm like, nope, that wasn't it.
That was Goodfellas.
Yeah.
One thing that kind of stood out for me, I found it a little bit odd, was, Geeta was a national champion, and she gets to the National Sports Academy, and it seems like nobody knows who she is. So how does that work? Like for sports like these, like were these other girls national champions before her, and they've already been at the academy for so long that they have no interest in the outside world? Is it?
I don't understand it either. But
it was weird, right? Like
it was.
You would think.
I don't.
Or is it because the country's just that big that I feel like a national champion is a national champion.
Well, no one seemed to know who Mahavir was either.
Right, but by at this point, he's already probably like 20, almost 30 years past.
I understand that, but I mean, the older guys that he was pleading to at the end, you would expect them to like know who he is.
Well, yeah, maybe. I could see that. I mean, obviously they recruited her, so they knew who she was in that regard. But the other girls, it was more that the other girls had no idea who she was, and the coach had no idea. But
maybe there's just so many national champions for like specific districts.
Well, there's different. There's weight classes, so for every weight class.
So that's the other thing. I don't know because I don't know. I didn't even know that there was a national like sports academy, other than for the Olympics. Like if I knew that existed for Olympics, like if you're gonna go train for the Olympics, you're gonna go to Colorado or whatever.
Yeah, but that's a thing everywhere. There's a national team because they have the Commonwealth Games, they have the Pan American Games, they have like the European Games. Like there's different. The Olympics are every 4 years, but there's always like international events every year. Got it. And you still need a national team.
That's the thing. I don't know anything about.
And you actually need to like compete in these to qualify for the Olympics. So
right. That's how America didn't get qualified for
the World Cup.
For the soccer World Cup.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't really notice. By that point, I didn't really care because I feel like Babita was a secondary character the whole time.
Right.
And she was just being used as leverage to like show Geeta like what she was doing wrong and like basically be the father within their national their camp.
Well, I think because she was younger and she was a witness to everything, she saw what both of them were doing wrong.
True.
And I think
they always say like
that was the importance of her character, because
the middle child like usually ends up better, right?
Right. She was the outsider. She was like observing like what Geeta did wrong. She didn't really seem. She seemed to side with Pops the entire time, which is fine. I mean, that was part of the story. And like I said, it comes down to family. Like this is like,
and I'm sure they both
honor thy mother and thy father. You know.
I mean, the funny thing is, it's not really funny, but the ironic thing is, the only really underdeveloped character was the mother.
Yeah.
And the nephew, the narrator.
I mean, you didn't even really see the other little girls, the other daughters.
No, at all. Other than that little sign scene, and then like them in the background or something. But
they just weren't really.
It wasn't their story.
No,
so
it wasn't their story.
It's not for me to harp on. I was just saying, like, it's ironic, like, about this whole like parental unit being set up at the beginning. It's really just the father.
And I think he tells her like, I'm going to try this out. Give me a year to see if this works. And basically, you're not their mother. He says it, like, you don't have a mother for a year. Like, you just have to. I need you to support me. I'm their coach.
Which is hats off to her.
And they had that little scene where he's like, with his other daughter. The daughter, like, he's like, she's asleep, and he's like rubbing her head and rubbing her feet, and then he's like, the mom comes up like, how can you be this way? And he's like, I can either be their coach or I can be their father.
I can't be both.
But you still see that he still has the tenderness inside of him, that love for his children. I mean, it's just
it worked.
Yeah, it worked.
That's all that matters.
Our next review, I think we're gonna do My Name Is Khan, unless you guys think we should do another survey.
Well, there's so many movies that we need to do. Like, I want to watch Ek the Tiger before the sequel comes out, because I think the trailer is going to be released for the sequel like this week or next week. But so like that's definitely on our list of things. I wanted to get My Name Is Khan out, because I feel like even now more than ever, especially with the recent attacks yesterday, that the person who drove through all those people, this whole thing about like 9/11 and Muslims and et cetera, like, I feel like it's really relevant now.
Yeah.
So it might have even more significance now that like this just happened yesterday, and there's more like a freshness to it. And because I feel like you can tell whether or not a movie is actually great by how well it holds up over time.
Exactly.
And so if it's still relevant today, because I don't know anything about the movie other than like the little bits.
I don't
and
think
pieces.
it's that old.
I mean, it's not, but it's a movie that takes place.
It's a period piece.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the message, if it still holds up today, especially like with what just happened and what continues to happen around the world, like, it's something I want to watch. And I understand in the comments, we understand what the movie's about, at least in regard to like Muslims and Indians and everything like that. So we listen to you. That's my point.
Yeah. Anyways, that's gonna be our next one. Well, that's gonna do it for us. Let us know what you think of the review. Make sure to smash that like button, ring that bell, leave us some comments. We really, really want to thank you guys for recommending this movie. It was great. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Team Dangal.
Hashtag Team Dangal. And I wish more people on Twitter would have voted for. You know what? I'm actually glad that we watched Sultan first,
just like this. Yeah.
Because I think it would have made watching Sultan a little harder.
It would have made me hate Sultan. My review for Sultan would have been really, really biased, and I would have been comparing it to Dangal the whole time, 100%, just because of that fact. And so there's a few commenters out there who are saying you should just watch them in the order they were released, which is Sultan first, then Dangal, to like get the same experience we got. Sultan. It's hard. It's like, it's what I guess I've just been saying it wrong my entire life, but Sultan.
Anyways, make sure to check out some of our other reviews as well as our reaction videos. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.